All right, guys, we are back.
We back.
We are here for another jam session. So we haven't been in our Rev studio to record for a little bit over 4 or 5
Studio
weeks.
slash adjusting space.
Slash adjusting space, slash multi-use area. So we decided early December that we had been putting out so much content. We've had over, how many episodes have we had so far? 24, 25? I don't even remember how many we've done, but about 5-6 months that we've been pretty consistent of sharing. And at the end and beginning of December, we decided that we wanted to take a little pause and a little break to just enjoy the holiday time, enjoy the New Year's time. And we're just really, really excited. It's actually cool because taking a little bit of space, you realize how much you actually love what you do whenever you take a little space from something. And also we've had plenty of you guys that have been in Rev share with us saying, hey, are you guys gonna be doing more videos? Because we really, really enjoy it. So we are happy to be back, and we have a really prudent and amazing topic that comes up a lot in our office, and we want to share a little bit different light on it. So Monica, kick it off for
And
us.
this was another requested video by one of our members, and we're so excited to provide this information with the three of us. So it's going to be a little bit different, our perspectives on it, but I think that, and I haven't looked this up, that I would say how to get more energy is probably one of the most searched Google searches for health and wellness, I would say, out there, because everyone wants more energy. Like, you cannot really have too much energy unless we're talking about anxiety, which is a whole different video. But as far as like vitality and that energy, like that is what everyone's looking for, because when you don't have that is when it's a challenge, because that's when you can't show up for your life in the way that you did before. And actually, fatigue is the first sign of any dis-ease in the body. And I personally understand what that feels like, to go from having a lot of energy and then all of a sudden not, and feel derailed by it and not sure how to move forward from that. And that's what my story was, is the first sign of the disease in my body was actually like slapped in the face with fatigue when I was 17. And it changed my life, because I was so used to having so much energy for sports, for school, for whatever it was, for showing up just to feel good. And when I didn't have it, it changed everything. So for me, the past 20 years, so to say, has been how to like cultivate more vitality in my body, how to remove things that are sucking energy from me, because I love energy. Everyone loves that feeling of just, I feel abundantly energetic right now. So we're going to share all of our hacks, but also our top 7 energy suckers. Is that what we're calling Energy it? suckers.
We're calling it energy suckers. It is official.
The things that you're probably not going to hear about in those Google searches. These are going to be some of the outside of the box things that are going to get you to think, and immediately you're going to see results from it. So we're really excited to dive in.
I am so excited to dive into, and you just said it, but I think everybody that comes in, that they are looking for more energy in their life, and they will tell us all these things that they're doing right. And we ask them simple things like, how are you sleeping? How's community? How's support? How's your job? And they're like, why does that matter? So we're going to debunk some of these things that maybe happen in the background, and for you just to be thinking about that for yourself. Like, how do these things feel for me? Is that something that I'm already doing? Is that something I never even thought of? Because I think even when you were just reading them off, I'm like, this is just going to lift the top off for people. So let's dive in.
I think before too, I think it's interesting because there's different layers and levels of energy as well. When most people come into Rev, especially, they have years of toxicity, years of emotional baggage, years of physical damage, and like that energy then gets, concaved and collapsed. And so they start opening up, and they do start feeling little subtleties. But then, we've been on this journey for over a decade plus. We've had people here for years, whether it's 6 months, beginning stages of shifts and changes, like you start feeling a little bit more energy, but then all of a sudden life starts to pick up, right? So it's not to say that you're not doing the work, you're not taking intentional care, but what we've seen is that life tends to add a whole bunch of extra baggage that then start to drain our energy. So we can do a lot of the right things, but there's a lot of things that we're unaware of. And I think what this video is going to be about is like, wherever you're at, whether you're in the beginning stages of healing or you've been on it for 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be, there's always an extra level and layer. And that's something that I personally continue to unlock. Like, what I'm doing now compared to what I was doing 15 years ago is an entirely new place. But there are definitely seasons and times of maybe I'm not paying attention. Like, I'll feel kind of crappy and not have the energy. It's also being okay if that's a season in life. But I think today's conversation is just hopefully going to give you a little different ideas on how to approach and look if you are feeling lower energy levels.
And I think in every video, we've always said that like awareness unlocks things for people. And this is all about unlocking.
Totally.
And it's always going to deepen. Like these 7 things I'm still doing.
Yeah.
And probably will always be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm hopeful there'll be other things to that list always as my life evolves and shifts and changes and things like that. So this is not the end all be all.
Yeah.
This is going to be an amazing start where you're going to hopefully feel very hopeful and excited and ready to implement these things in whatever which way. And there's no order that I'm going in. So I just threw them on the board behind you guys right now, and you'll see. So let's just start.
do it.
You will see.
Yeah.
We'll
So
see. So the first one, again, this is outside of the box. You're not going to see this on a Google search. This first one is actually procrastination. This is a huge energy sucker. Let me like paint the picture for you on procrastination. And Matt is like,
This doesn't hit home at all.
in the season of this. And I have like really stopped, I would say, procrastination, this pattern that I had been running for a long time. I would say like the past 2 years. I would say that I'm just like over that. But procrastination, if we're thinking about doing something, I'm going to do this. Okay, I got to do this in a couple weeks. Or I got to do this. And that stacks. It is robbing us of so much mental space and energy thinking about it all the time. So therefore, it's an energy sucker for sure. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah. All right. I'll
first of
share.
all, you both do not seem like procrastinators. to
I'm
me.
not anymore. I'm really not anymore.
And I had a similar conversation with actually just someone today during a reassessment. It's not the sense that we're not doing anything, but there's these overhanging things and responsibilities, or even just tasks that we want to just whether it's something we want to do or something that we just need to do, right? Because those are 2 different things. But if you spend any amount of time letting that ruminate in the back of your mind, that weight just starts to build up. And I will give you guys, what I am a procrastinator by nature. I've done it my entire life, and there's been seasons that I haven't. And again, I do a lot of things and I take action in a lot of things in life, but there's just those things that you just sometimes push to the side, right? I had 3 specific things that for about 2 months I needed to do. And I would physically start feeling myself like feel the weight of that, and just like felt like I'll just do it later.
Like a genre of what this.
Like I had to fill out a specific form for something for my bank, and it wasn't that necessarily a huge deal. Like it wasn't going to affect anything that I needed to be taken care of, but it just needed to be taken care of. And then there was just some other, little minutia things that I had to do. And I remember, something with our license and filling out paperwork, whatever. And I had a few months, but I kept feeling it. And so what happened was one day I just I got to do this. And there was 3 things that I had to do. I've been putting it off for months. And I did all 3 of those things in about 20 minutes. And I had done that previously in the past before, but something clicked for me. It's like, if I can just take action on things right away, 99.9% of the time, I make it more challenging in my head. I make it more stressful than it actually is. And so this led us down a path, which maybe we'll introduce what we're doing. I was looking up books on procrastinations. A book came up called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. Maybe many of you guys have heard of her. She is an amazing human being, and she wrote this book, and it's really, really simple. It's called The 5-Second Rule. It's something that she shares her story that she was a procrastinator. She would put things on the back burner, and she'll share it in the book if you want to read it. But essentially, if you just count backwards from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and take action on that, what that does from the nervous system, from your brain and a biological standpoint, you get yourself out of the rumination and you actually start moving towards the goal. And when you start moving towards the goal, it makes it easier for you to just continue that momentum. Because when we have that stress, when we have that fight or flight, it's just holding in the background. And I just remember this weight got lifted off me. So I'm about 3 weeks off of being a procrastinator, but I honestly feel like something within me is changing completely. And so procrastination is just one of those things where if we don't look at it and address it, it's just going to be in the background of your mind all the time.
That makes me think of everything is 95% kind of in the background. And with all that stuff, it probably took you 20 minutes, like you said, to nail that. And living rent-free in your head, whatever that might be, but how many 20-minute periods did you go through in that long time period? Probably 20 minutes every now and again, just thinking about that. And I think about that 95% being subconscious. It's how often were you not even consciously thinking about that? And how present were you whenever that takes up so much space?
Yeah, and it's just a layer. Again, been on the journey for a long time, but just freeing that up, I feel more free. I feel more open. So, I'm I love it.
So yeah, so procrastination, I feel like it's tasks, but it's also like maybe even conversations that you definitely need to have. Like so procrastination comes in different shapes and forms, but this is just planting a seed for you to really begin going throughout your day. And what are you like, what's holding on? Like what are you holding on to that's actually robbing us of presence and energy? And so procrastination and the 5-second rule and things like that is such freedom from it, truly.
Yeah, I can't recommend. We actually decided to all of us read that book this month of January, and so we invited our community. So if you're watching this video or you got our emails, we invite you to read that book and hopefully gain some value from it as well.
Then we can do it together.
I think all that action cures so much anxiety just right off the bat.
That's what your anxiety was from when you were younger, was tasks you had, I remember, built up.
Oh yeah, this is a
Huge
repeating
weight.
pattern for me. It's like you just think about it, and like again, your nervous system doesn't know the difference between if it's real or if it's perceived. So you're creating this stress response, and just by taking action, you can collapse that wave of stress in your life. And so yeah.
I love that.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Okay.
sharing.
Number 2 is holding. We didn't have a better word for this, so we're just going to call it holding. But this is like totally opening a hatch right now, because this is actually, I would say, one of the largest ones.
Hmm.
They're all large depending on where you're at. But holding means like holding on to things in your body. So it can be holding on to like bitterness, holding on to trauma, holding on to anger, holding on to something that didn't go right in your life. Like if you haven't processed through it and integrated, it's still stored within the body. When it's stored within the body, it's actually running 24/7 through our nervous system. And when it's doing that, it's causing your hormones to be out of whack, your adrenals to be messed up. Like everything is running on repeat all the time. So your energy is being drained hardcore by that.
I think about like practically in the body how we look at it and how energy moves in our body and how our body essentially is like this cycle that it goes through, and anything in somatic work says that our emotions do the same thing, where they have to go through like this like full loop basically. And I think the easier route for a lot of people to get energy from like the bottom of our body to the top of our body, if we're holding a lot of trauma or a lot of stagnancy or stuck energy or ruminating thoughts or whatever it might be, our body doesn't move energy so efficiently down its central canal. So instead of doing this really efficient way that nature likes to move, it starts to say, you know what, I'll do you a favor. I'm going to accumulate some of this stuff in your back pocket. We're going to hold on to the gallbladder or stomach or liver. And then all of a sudden, that energy, and this is energy likes to go from point A to point B efficiently, instead of moving up this really smooth channel, all of a sudden is like, you know what, I'm going to move around this area. I'm going to go over here, and then come up. And by the time we get to the top of our head, we don't even have enough energy to go through this full cycle. So it's not even just like the in the moment thing, but those things start accumulating and like compounding. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, now I'm drained.
Yeah.
So
So to me, this is like the thing I wanted to put on that note instead of holding was actually unforgiveness, which is
That's what I
not
was gonna say.
really even a word. It's not a word. And I'm like,
Uh,
what's the opposite of forgiveness? And Erica's like, peace. I'm like, okay. So like forgiveness is actually, I would say, when you forgive yourself, forgive other people, it is one of the freers, uppers of energy,
Yeah.
whatever we want to call it. It is like the biggest.
Because
the biggest part.
that taps into the subconscious, the unconscious, because no one here that watching this video is like, yeah, I'm holding on to stuff and I'm trying to let it go, right? Because consciously they're like, I don't want to think about what my mom or my sister or my brother or the coworker said, but for some reason I can't hold on to it. And we talk about it all the time. You know, you have integrated an experience if you can think about that experience and be at a total place of peace, appreciation, and gratitude that that challenge was actually there for your life. And if you don't feel that, then you still got some work to do. And how to do that, one, is forgiveness, but also it is like the consistent action of putting in the work, not only going inward, going through the integration process, but taking care of our bodies, which other things we're going to talk about. So it is an all-encompassing, like, integration is not just like, hey, I just got to like, okay, I know that happened, let me just let it go. It is a process, and hopefully you are on this process to just know you're moving in the right direction with that awareness first, but then also the forgiveness piece is huge.
And also when I'm in the room with people doing maybe an initial visit or reassessment, I do a visual for them, because I just think being visual things is so helpful for learning. And I'm like, I want you to look at my hand right now. I'm clenching my hand really, really tight. You see how it's getting red? I'm actually getting tired. That sounds kind of embarrassing how tired I am right now. I can't place. But I'm like, literally, when I stop, I exhale, I release it, I'm relaxed. But this is what's happening on so many micro levels in the system.
Mm.
We're holding everything in place. And once we integrate it, be at peace with it, heal it, then our body can literally stop holding on to it. And therefore, we have so much energy in return because it's no longer holding it in place. And that to me is an incentive to heal.
That's a great visual too, just compared to what she just said too, like the visualization of like energy gets stuck, something that you could do if you want to be more aware of what you're holding. Like you just saw that, right? Like that makes sense. If we have this tension right here, you can feel it. Doing a quick breath body scan from the top of your head, moving all the way down to the bottom of your feet. If you do that for several minutes, you'll be able to feel different areas of your body where it's like challenging to breathe in. And that's just your awareness, like, oh, I'm holding something there. Don't beat yourself up, but just continue doing that on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and things are going to start shifting.
And here's also like an example of, let's say that, here's just an example that has kind of happened to me, but it's kind of more broad. Let's say you like go to a party. So to say, you're not really sure who's going to be there. You're at the party, you're excited to be at the party. It's going to be fun. And all of a sudden there's this one person who maybe upset you at one point and you're kind of holding on to whatever that experience was. Maybe seeing that person makes you feel super angry or bitter or whatever, jealous, whatever it may be. So now that I'm experiencing that emotion, it's actually taking away from my present moment and taking away my energy when my energy could have been clear and me fully experiencing the moment. You know what I mean? So that I've had many of those moments where I'm like, I do not like the way I feel. And it's incentive for me to forgive myself for whatever it was or forgive them for whatever they did because it's maybe they don't deserve to be forgiven. That's not for me to say, but I deserve to forgive them because
Mm.
I'm holding on to it. You know what I mean? That's really what the biggest thing is.
That saying that anger and forgiveness is like giving somebody or drinking poison slowly and expecting the other person to die. I think about that. Like that's exactly what that is. And I think too, like whenever you're with some situation that you need to process, there's a difference between like confronting what needs to be like with the procrastination. Like I like to say, if it's not in front of me, it's not inside me. It does not live inside me. I don't think about it. I don't try to hold on to it. I try to be really present. But I think that's a really good barometer too. If your thoughts are heavily thinking about the past or heavily thinking about the future, how much energy is that draining alone? And that's pretty much what forgiveness is forgiving something that we don't have hope for in the future or dwelling on something that already happened. So I think about like in a situation like that with somebody who's maybe like uncomfortable, I think that's that procrastination piece too of like, I gotta handle this. Like I gotta come to peace with this.
Yeah.
I think some people might not want to like let like a lot of people have a hard time of letting things go, right? Like that's just like ingrained in them. But like why are you letting go? Why are you releasing the holding? Why are you forgiving, right? Is because you only have a certain finite amount of energy and a finite amount of time every single day. So by not doing those things, you are somewhat consciously choosing not to fully express yourself and not to live at your highest level. So at the end of the day, it's like kind of in a selfish way, it's like, I gotta let this go so I can actually do the things that I really, really want to do.
Oh, when you paint it
And
like
just
that.
to kind of
Just being real.
make it make sense though, like those emotions are actually really addictive in our brain. So like that's also something just to, you know, not be so hard on yourself. Like we become addicted to feeling angry or we become addictive to not forgiving someone. Our nervous system is always looking for that feeling that we're addicted to. So like the more you can just become aware that we are addicted to whatever feeling it is, the more you can break it and be free from it. And therefore express yourself more, live in alignment, be happier, everything.
Breaking them chains.
Okay. Number 3, this is like to me one of the easiest ways to begin gaining energy, reclaiming your energy essentially. And this is toxins. Toxins are something that robs our system of energy because if it's not natural and not meant to be in our body, then our nervous system has to figure out how to process it. And our nervous system's designed, like our body is designed to detox every day, every second through all these organ systems. But if it's overloaded by all these things that we're using, toxins in our laundry, our skincare products, our lotions, our hair care, artificial candles and fragrances and things like that, it's too much and we become tired. So for me, one of the easiest ways is to just say no and live a cleaner life and become aware of what are you using in your cleaning products? Because not only are you breathing it in, direct gateway to the brain, but also with our skin, there's no filter. So it goes right into our body through our skin essentially versus ingesting it. So there's so many, I mean, we can go on for hours and hours, and we have done a video on this particular thing that you can cite. So we don't need to talk too much about it, but
No.
it's a big one. It's so easy.
It's so big. I mean, I think out of the 20-something videos we've done, we bring this up a lot every time. And it's like, yeah, you've heard it before. And we've heard it too for a decade. But like, and there's two different routes, right? You can go like all in and like be anal about it and like there and this, and I got to get rid of everything, which is not a bad approach if you're wanting to really, really make huge changes. But like, let's be real. Like, we have microplastics, we have chemicals in the air we breathe, all these parabens on all these products, right? Like, we live in a technological world, but we also live in a chemical world as well. And so the just small incremental changes over time. Like, I can't even tell you, like 10 years ago, the amount of things that we eliminated was a lot. And then it's not like whenever we found something out, we're like, oh, we got to do it right away. Like, we just slowly started adding things or eliminating things from our life. And then before you know it, like, you have a less toxic load on yourself. So again, we say it all the time. I just think we say it all the time because it's so prudent in the world that we have to be proactive and take ownership of our life. And it's by just getting rid of the small things here and there, they really start to add up in our life.
I think that the detoxing journey has been something we've been on for a long time, talking about all of us and just cleaning up, because it's those small things that like kind of accumulate in a bucket where, yeah, I'm not going to do like like maybe drinking or something for a lot of people could feel like that, where if you were to like go way over the top, you're going to feel that in the morning. Like it's pretty obvious, it's pretty loud, but it's usually those really small things that pile up. And the drinking example is good because if you're hungover, it's just like exacerbated basically. But
You know you shouldn't have
yeah,
done
you're
that.
hungover and you're having these toxins in your body, and then it's like you barely can have a conversation with people. You can't even really be out in the sunlight and do the things that you're typically doing. And I think about that like kind of on the reverse now on my journey. I'm learning all about like what supports my body and how that can actually support the detoxing process. So not only just eliminating those things, excuse me, but now I'm starting to see the benefits so radically just by like supporting my body too, that I'm like, oh my God, this probably was a radical shift 10 years ago at this point, whenever I started, like using less toxic skincare, eating right, doing that. But more so now, like 10 years later, like the things I'm adding to my body to help it actually detox, I'm seeing the biggest change in my energy levels.
And there's like two ways to do it. Like remove the toxins, the unnecessary things that you don't have to process. Like, let's just not do that, because then we're processing more. But also cultivating your body's intelligence. That way it's just really detoxing hardcore. But if I'm just doing one or the other, it needs to be both together. Because if you're just cultivating and like what's going to nourish me, but you're still adding toxins every day, it's just like an uphill battle. You know what I mean?
Making it harder on
But
yourself.
also something to really note is that like being toxic, and we're all toxic. Like, we live in a toxic world. It's okay. We can acclimate. We're adaptable. Our nervous system can handle it. But it's the level of toxicity, the body burden that's too high. That's the issue here, essentially. But the thing to note is that we become acclimated to our toxicity. So basically, Erica had the very loud example of a hangover from alcohol, but we can actually feel hungover from all these things that we're doing every single day. And it's a low grade hangover and we're not really even aware of it. Let's say that we have our phone in our, maybe our pocket or here every single day. So our body's receiving all these EMFs from our phone. Okay. We're putting on tons of perfume every single day. We're using all these toxins in our products. Like, we're having Yankee Candle in our house. Like, this is just a lot that our body has to process, and we're not even aware of it. Like, some people are like, this is all fine. I'm like, what's fine? Because you've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
I have the best story of this that just happened yesterday. Sorry if I interrupted
No,
you.
please
That was
go.
a perfect entry to this, but we have a family under care and they've probably been under care for 3 or 4 months. It's a mom and her like 4 kids. And in this like 3 to 4 months that they've been under care, the mom just told me, they're like, we've radically like cleaned up our eating, just not really having the food in the house because that's what I told her. She was like, the kids are always snacking and doing this. I'm like, are you like, they're buying the snacks, like they're buying the Oreos, they're buying the things. So she was like, I just stopped buying that recently. And I chatted with the oldest son like 2 days ago. I was adjusting him. And he's like, I went over somewhere and had a Dr. Pepper for the first time since he's had been under care, really. And he was like, it used to be so delicious, so good. And then he'd feel terrible. He's like pre-diabetic and things like that too, which shouldn't, I mean, whatever. But anyways, he was like, I'd feel terrible like later, typically. He was like, I drank this thing and immediately I was like, I couldn't, he couldn't even believe that he used to drink like 3 of those a day. And I'm like, his body got used to that toxic load, took a period of break, and then all of a sudden it's actually his body thanking him like, hey, this is a little bit outside of our bandwidth now. We like this. This is how we typically operate. So now it's almost like he would have had 3 of those before and not noticed a thing, but because his system is so much more clear, his internal meter is like, whoa, outside of my comfort zone, outside of my bandwidth.
And this kind of definitely goes into two ones from now, but it's poor choices of food and stuff like that. So I kind of just want to roll into that.
Yeah, roll into that. Yeah.
But I'm someone who like I don't want to feel deprived. So my mindset on something like a Dr. Pepper, let's say I love Dr. Pepper. I actually never liked Dr. Pepper. That definitely wasn't my thing. I grew up on like Diet Coke, which is the worst of the worst. The aspartame, I know. Once my dad learned that it causes Alzheimer's, we stopped buying the cases of it and everything. It was horrible. But anyways, let's say I did love
I'm
Dr.
buying
Pepper.
the cases.
You drink
Not
a
the
case a
cans,
day.
the cases.
The cases, yeah.
Hey, I'm serious, guys. It was like it was a thing. You should ask all my friends growing
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to see our wall of cases. Let's say I did love Dr. Pepper though, and then I realized, oh, this might not be the best choice for me long term. It's not sustainable to have 3 a day. Okay, now we have so many awesome brands that you can get to substitute, which, I was learning about all of these things 16 years ago, and there was barely anything at the stores. Like health food store weren't really a thing. Whole Foods wasn't really a thing yet. And so there was just really few options to substitute what I was eating basically. But nowadays there's things like Olipop, which Matt loves the Olipop root beer. How many grams of sugar is it?
6 to 8?
2?
No, maybe
I think it's 2 grams.
less than 8. Yeah, less
And
than
it has
8.
like probiotics in it and stuff like that. And to
Licorice.
me, it tastes like
I think it's great.
as delicious to me. I don't think I'd even like a regular root beer these days because of the high fructose. It just might be like too syrupy. I don't know. I haven't had one.
I
in a
haven't
long
had
time.
one. It might. I think about Halloween Butterfinger. Like I used to love Butterfinger, and I think like 2, 3 years ago, I'm like, Mom, I think I'm gonna have a Butterfinger. Like I want to have it. She's like, absolutely. I ate it. I'm like, oh God, this sucks. Like this tastes awful because my palate has changed so much. So that's actually like a great indicator. Like if you are eating healthier and you try something, like go ahead, try it and see how your body responds, and you'll be like, kind of like what you were sharing, like, oh my God, I used to have these every single day. This was poisoning me. Yeah, so it's a great indicator as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think it's easy. Just like swap for something that is using more real ingredients because again, it's less for your nervous system to process, less for your digestive system, your liver, everything to process. So you have more energy because of that. And you feel better. Like
Yeah.
that's to me, this is simple.
Were you rolling into the poor choices?
Yeah, I just went into that. Yeah.
And like, I think the biggest piece I'll say is like, we now no longer in the world we live in, we have no more excuses. Like we have plenty of options out there. So again, it all comes down to your choice and what is it important for you to change that, because what do you want out of your life? And by making better decisions, again, those things just start to stack up.
Yeah.
You know?
Anything else to say about I mean, that's something you probably expected us to say is, make better choices for your body temple, what you eat and what you consume and stuff like that. So we definitely wanted to throw it in there, but kind of shift.
I mean,
Shift it.
it's what we have talked about before, and this is like the biggest truth that we've heard. Healing, health, energy, like being your best, the concepts are relatively simple. And they're relatively easy as well. They're only not easy because we've had so many years of doing things a certain way. So we tend to overcomplicate health. It's sometimes the most simplest things that make the biggest impact.
Yeah. And I really quickly wanted to go back to the toxins, but it kind of applies to this too, is that we have to understand that the things on the shelf are completely not regulated. So that's what I think the biggest thing that most people don't understand is that,
Right
well, I'm
now.
just going to go right now.
Right now.
Right now. I'm just going to go to Walgreens or Target. I'm just going to look in the healthier section, plants and botanical words and stuff like that on the bottles. And that's what I'm going to get. It's not guaranteed. It's
Yeah.
not guaranteed. It never was. I hope one day it is, but just know you have to become empowered and start looking at the labels and start understanding which things to stay away from. Even if you just stay away from fragrance, that's going to be a huge dent in your toxic load, basically. But also with food, like what's on the shelves, it's not guaranteed. There could be MSG in a lot of things that you buy, even at Whole Foods, like yeast extract actually could be MSG in there. So we have to become autonomous and become empowered to understand these things. It's not given at this point.
With like food too, it's something that like is energy. It's supposed to be an energy source for our body to break down. So if you feel tired after you eat, that is not a normal process of intaking energy to feel tired like that. So even like we did like carnivore for a while. I remember in the very beginning not having those like really heavy foods and oils and like breads as much. I was eating meat and it felt like pure energy that I was having. And it's take it or leave it really with any diet. But I feel like with that even too, I just started to notice like those additives and those things like that were taking my body like it felt like hours to recover afterwards. Like I was tired after that. I was like, and then I would start to eat that stuff again and I'd be like, I feel terrible. I can't even believe I was eating that like every day.
And that's a great analogy of like just practicing mindfulness and awareness, not only with each bite that you're taking in, because a lot of times, and I did this a lot. I'm trying to be better, especially some of the things we're learning about Ayurveda, like just eating and moving and just kind of like put it in your mouth. But if you actually just sit down, take in the food, and then really observe, how do I feel over these next 30, 60 minutes, that can increase that awareness. Like, oh, my body feels great when I do this. My body feels like crap when I do this. And just that can support you over the long term.
But here's also the thing is that this is an interesting conversation that you could be eating the healthiest thing ever, but if you're eating from a place of stress or anxiety, you're going to digest it that way. So also how you feel after a meal is not necessarily, it's all awareness of that. We have to be aware of our emotions and what we're feeling. Like sometimes if Matt and I are having an argument and we're like out to eat or something, like argument, like we're working through something, like that's really what it is. I like stop eating in anger. Like, please, I tell him, please stop. Because I think it's a habit of eating angry or whatever.
The former fat kid in me just, just eats in
So
anger.
be aware, like don't eat in stress, don't eat in sadness, like don't, because your body's gonna digest that with that emotion. And I don't know, it's like really loud for me. Like
Yeah.
I want to eat, I don't know, in neutrality.
Mhm.
Yeah, in balance. I want to eat in balance.
100%. All right, I think we move on to the next one.
The next one is actually stagnancy.
Mhm.
And so this is a big one. A lot of people are like, I'm just too tired. I don't want to work out. So I just thought this would be a good topic to discuss.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just lead with what we've shared before. We're talking about energy. First law of thermodynamics: energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or transformed, right? And so when we stay still, we stay stagnant. Again, meditation, quiet time, that's important. But when we're not moving, what begins to happen? The sludge starts to build up and that energy pockets in different areas of our body. So movement can look like many different ways, like not procrastinating and taking action, going to the gym, eating a proper food, like moving in a particular direction that allows that stagnancy to no longer be stagnant, allow that energy to move, which we can chat more about. But
Okay, this is the craziest example, but this is literally what I do for anger. um, I use the energy and it actually starts to literally transmute. Yeah. Like,
I can so see that for you.
and I don't know about you guys. Well, I'll just tell you guys and you can try it at home for yourselves. But like I started to feel whenever I was having like energy of anger, or I think this leads to anxiety if we keep accumulating that for so long, I was feeling that kind of like densing me down. I don't know how else to say that. I just felt like really heavy and I was starting to feel that in my like lower hips and my shoulders. And I think about like a kid really and just what would they do? And I just went outside for the first time, just like intuitively, and just start stomping my feet like a ridiculous 5-year-old ridiculously. And I'm like, "Grr." And then all of a sudden I start finding myself laughing. And I'm like, it transmuted a lot of that energy of just like letting it out, releasing it out of my body, moving through it just a little bit. Like I was literally getting my whole body involved. And then all of a sudden I start shaking it out and I'm like laughing and almost like it starts to move into like joy. It was starting to change into like I was having fun stomping my feet. I was having fun making these really unique noises. But I think about that just on a really broad level with energy in general, if we're not moving our body, like how much actually starts to compact and compound. And that's what I was feeling on a really, really big level with anger, that it was just like boiling up. And I think a lot of people resonate with that with anger.
Yeah, the mind, definitely. The mind and the brain starts the bioenergetic hormonal response, and you can create a lot of great things with that. But we live in our physical body, so we have to move to allow that energy to really reach its fullest potential.
And movement is one of the greatest ways to help integration. So like
Yeah.
it should be incentive to move every single day. I'm not saying, you know, run a marathon or join a CrossFit gym and do it every single day unless that's like lights you up, then that's an energy increaser, not a sucker. But I think moving every day is going to be huge. Even going on a walk
Mhm.
is big. And we work with a lot of people that at the beginning they're just like, I know I should move, but I'm too tired. I just don't want to move. And so the beginning is the hardest part.
And I do want to hit back to what we started with procrastination, Mel Robbins and that book, 5 Second Rule. Like I can't recommend it enough because they talk about like the action of like just do it is like the concept which Nike talks about, but putting in that timeline of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, taking action, that's like the how to do it. And like a lot of people do, they like, I know I should do that. So whatever that is, you know what to do. You have to find a way to like get out of your own way essentially. And so if you are having trouble with that, I'm going to highly recommend that book for you guys because it just kind of reframes it just to start taking little actions. And maybe you do have to go for a workout, but maybe your first action is just to get up. Like get up. Actually, what I've been doing, we're doing a lot of cold plunges because it's colder. Like so we have a big tub outside next to our hot tub, and so it's got cold water in there. So I've been going, I gotta go. Actually, did this morning with Rocky watching me. I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the cold plunge, buddy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I walked outside, and then I go to the cold plunge, and I 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I take the cover off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like it just made me kept going to that next action. So that's something that again I'm using right now for little things here and there. So just I think that it would just be supportive for people that are feeling stuck and they just can't move. Just
Yeah.
take that
I
action.
was talking to a woman a few months ago and she's like, she was like, I'm overweight. Like I want to start working out. And I'm like, well, what's the issue? And she was like, well, like when I go to work out, I can't. Like I freeze. Like I just really can't get that next step. And so in exercise, she really needs a 5 second rule. And this was before we started reading it.
Yeah, yeah.
5 second rule is great, but another exercise, and I told her, I was like, okay, I want you to close your eyes at home, wherever you feel safe, and I want you to visualize yourself when you want to work out, taking that next step and like seeing it in your mind's eye that instead of just being stagnant and being in this stuck pattern of just, I can't do it, that you actually see yourself getting up, picking up the weights, whatever it may be, getting your workout clothes on, and you're going because that's actually going to help create those neural circuits to where when you actually do it, it's easier. You're more in a groove. Like, oh, I've done this before. I'm just going to do it.
Mhm.
Versus she's stuck in a pattern. The neural circuitry is that I don't do it. So that's it's also a patterning too. That's the issue.
She's living in the old identity and like you're trying to move your life into a new place, so you have to create a new identity. Think about someone who wanted to literally create a new identity if they moved somewhere and they had to make a new identity. That's going to be hard at first, right? You have this whole past, so just know like it's these little steps along the way that you are literally starting to create that. So don't beat yourself up if you go to the gym and then you do that first rep, but then afterwards it's like, I can't just keep working consistently and it'll get easier over time.
I think too, like a body that in motion stays in motion, where in the beginning, just starting the habit, it takes like 21 days to create a new habit. Our reset is also about that period of time too. But I think it's that when those things become ingrained and wired, it becomes automatic and your body actually starts craving that. Or that's at least what happens for me. In the very beginning, I'll like carve it out as like a must, maybe, must have to, or have to maybe. And then eventually I'm like, I'll want to. And then almost like, why would I not? Yeah, like, why would I not? But I think in motion too, like, we just started playing soccer recently too, and, like, the movement that we do in adult co-ed soccer, like, I would say that I'm a decently in shape 30-year-old woman, but the men that we're playing against are, like, Matt size and have the foot skills of Monica. Like, so I think about that too, like, these people maybe don't look the fittest or the, like, healthiest. They're, like, everybody's over 30. It's some people are, I don't know, but their bodies are constantly doing this soccer and they are playing together year round. And our team is probably one of the younger teams and mainly all girls, women. But I think for us, like, this is just the very beginning of it. We're like a little bit slower than them, or it takes us a little bit, or we want to come off and get a sub a little bit quicker. But like our bodies are finding this groove with momentum where these people play year round, and it's kind of nothing for them to run around for 50 minutes on a court, where for me, like 10 minutes in right now, it exhausts me. But what the energy I feel like 2 days, 3 days later, it's insane because I just shook up so much stagnancy, so much denseness. And now, I mean, I need to recover like literally 24 hours later. But after that period, I feel like my body's gone through this rest cycle, this full cycle essentially. And all of a sudden I have bursts of energy. Like I think it's like we're not just filling up the gas tank anymore. I've got like reserves. So a body in motion
And
stays in motion.
after the games, I haven't played in 16 years. I played my whole life. And then I've noticed after these games, I threw up after the first, or threw up during the first game. Like that's how out of shape I was. Like bad, you guys.
Not on the field. You
Oh,
I
just
haven't
waited
thrown up since the
till.
first game. I threw up in the trash can because it's turf. I can't throw up on the field. But after the game, I realized, I mean, I'm tired. Like I am disgusting too. Like just drenched in gross sweat. But I'm like, my mind feels so happy.
Yeah.
Like actually, I
Releases
really
that,
felt
yeah.
like, and I told you, I'm like, I actually am happier playing. Like I feel not just even euphoric, but I just feel like a kid again. Like I feel like simple. Like what bothered me before doesn't bother me anymore. I'm just like, I don't know. I feel pure,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's movement is the medicine for that.
And
For
it
sure.
doesn't have to be, I mean, physical soccer, basketball, something intense is going to be an easy way to get that movement. But if you're watching this, you don't have to do that. You just have to move in some sort of way that is a little bit beyond what you have been doing to release that energy that has been stuck and stagnant.
And I think a big piece, I'm a big advocate for like new movements versus if you always do, let's say, I mean, I'm a huge advocate for yoga, but let's say you only do yoga for years. I think switching it up and doing a different type of workout is good to get the crevices of things that have been holding there because we do the same thing, we're doing it. It's still amazing for us, but there's more to access. So I think new things are exciting, like maybe try dancing, maybe hiking, maybe rock climbing, whatever it may be. I just think it's fun to explore that.
Make sure
for
to get in
sure.
those crevices for sure.
And then last thing before we move on to the next one, and we were talking about this earlier, sometimes not moving is also good for us, for our energy.
If we're always moving,
Rest.
yeah.
Yes, because some people are just trying to power through and they're so tired and they're still working out. Sometimes maybe not. And just taking a second and allowing that to settle. And also that, so any sort of like illness that comes into our life, this is how I view it now, where I'm super, super tired, it's actually an interrupt of the momentum where we're going. So if I really don't want to work out or I shouldn't work out or whatever, I just take it as like I need to rest. And in the rest is where I feel like I feel more alignment. That way moving forward differently than I was before. So I think rest is also a piece of stagnancy for some reason.
Yeah.
I definitely do too, because I think that a lot of reasons why people have drained energy is because they keep going in the wrong direction. Not that it's the wrong direction, but they keep going down this misaligned direction. Yeah, nothing's right or wrong, but I think that I heard this a long time ago, and they were saying depression. They were talking about depression and low energy, and how somebody went through like a really traumatic experience, and they were just like, I just needed to chill. Like I wasn't even really that upset about it. I could just feel that I was just like my walls were a little thinner, like her bandwidth was a little bit thinner. But I think depression, deep rest, like our body, when our body, it's different whenever we're like in a chronic depression and can't get out of it. But when our body feels tired, sick, low energy, like even me after soccer, Monica saying her brain's like, my brain is literally mush, where I'm like, I have such low energy right now because I just exerted so much that I'm not going to go running right now. I'm not going to go do all these different things where my body's clearly calling for me to quiet down, to rest. And I think about that bandwidth analogy too. And we need to have like our editor like do this on like the screen or something. But bandwidth at some people's points in life are like that big, and everything that happens in between them, we move through them easy. But if we have all these experiences that keep accumulating outside of this bandwidth, our body's like, let me do you a favor, and actually I'm going to decrease this bandwidth. So it goes from like that to that. And now these experiences that we used to be able to do super easy, that were within our bandwidth, like hanging out with family and friends, is like super overwhelming and super uncomfortable. And I can only be there for about 2 hours because it's now outside of our bandwidth in a way that our body's simply just telling us the message, we have to slow down. And I think that's a really, you guys tapped into a depression video a while ago too, but I think that's just another perspective on it too. Like sometimes that depression is our body's signal telling us like, actually rest is exactly what you need. So we're giving you guys so many hacks of energy drainers, but I actually think one of the biggest hacks of energy drainers is just not listening to our body.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Okay, moving on to the next one. We have two more.
I think these two kind of go together too, right?
Kind of, yeah. So the next one is things that drain you. So doing things that drain you. And this actually goes hand in hand with awareness. Like you have to be aware of what's actually draining you. And so a good exercise is whenever you go do something, and it could be your job, you go to your job, and when you leave your job, you feel super drained. Or you're with someone, which is going into the next one, and you feel super drained after leaving them. That's awareness. That's huge. That is your body, your soul, your guidance telling you this is misaligned and this is sucking your energy. When I know you want vitality, let's make a different decision or let's show up differently. So I think activities and I think our job. I think the job is the biggest thing. I think that people are misaligned with, and then it's draining them. And how many hours a week are people at their job that they hate?
Yeah.
It's
40-hour
huge.
weeks.
Like Matt's example of procrastinating, how many hours of their time outside of their work are they thinking about being there that they're also, and their body's physiologically not even sure if they're in their job or not too, or that's, I think, a huge thing if we're out of alignment that happens under the surface.
Well, what would you say to people though that like they have a job, they've had it for 20 years and it's draining them, right? Like it's hard for people to just come to the place of like, I'm going to quit tomorrow, right?
I am actually not the person to ask that question because
Well,
I
I
just
know
want to
you're,
be honest though.
yeah,
I'm super radical, and I will always. I'm not in a position where I've been in a job for 20 years that I don't like. So I'm just also honoring my response and honoring everyone's situation. But I
yes.
also want to say that I have learned to not stay in something that I really don't like, whether it's a relationship or something, because I hate the way that I feel and it really affects me.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm the person who will cheer someone on when 15 years into their job,
Yeah.
they actually make the empowered decision to find a career that aligns with them more.
Yeah.
So I think, but outside of that, I would say that if that were me, I would be finding moments of gratitude throughout each and every time I'm at my job where like I can see the sunny side up of it. You know what I mean? I can be like, oh, I love my coworker, Sally. Being with Sally feels really good. So that is a positive of going to my job. I'm really grateful for this paycheck. It allows me to do X, Y, and Z. So I would reach for all of the things that would make it more fulfilling and make me get through it to where I'm not sure if the reason why someone's still there is because of retirement maybe or something like that, or benefits, or I'm not sure what it is. But so that's what I would do. But also I would not be there if I'm being honest.
I know I asked
Yeah.
you in particular.
Yeah.
I knew.
I guess gratitude is what I would say, but I think that wherever you go, there you are. And what I tell people with relationships or jobs is whatever one you're in right now was clearly in alignment for some piece of you. And for me, I'm really curious. Like self-inquiry is one of my favorite skills about myself, of curiosity, of like wherever you go, there you are. But if you're in this job, if you're in this relationship that's draining you, I start to look around of like, what do I actually like about this? What drew me into this in the first place? I think it's probably the same thing as finding gratitude for what is already there, but using those things. And I'll just say this too, because at the end of the day, we all love our jobs. We love our jobs. And we talk about our jobs, all the time with each other. But after, our purpose. But after the office, I go home and I'm not like racking my brain and thinking about this conversation I had with Monica. Well, if I am, I'm just going to call you, but if I'm not like racking my brain and like sitting with it, ruminating with it. So I think it's like an investment too of what causes me peace. And then I think when we start weighing that with the gratitude that we feel, I think the decision actually just becomes a lot easier where it doesn't feel so radical. Where if we start living in this gratitude or this, I say like curiosity that I'm saying, Monica's saying the same thing, I think that life is going to start slowly nudging us in the direction of like, oh, this is actually just the obvious decision. And that just comes with the awareness of like, what is not feeling good here?
Yeah.
I also think it's like cultural conditioning that when we choose our job, we graduate college, we choose our job. And this is also the baby boomers and before, but it is still bleeding into, I would say, the generations after. I think it is changing that I graduate, I choose my career path, and that's what I'm going to do until I'm 60 plus. I retire, and then I live my life. Where this clearly has not served the masses, this way of living. Whereas, like, first of all, I don't think we should know our career path at 21. Our brains aren't even fully developed. Like, we don't know ourselves. We're not maybe even connected within. So I just think to give ourselves grace that if we did choose a career path that 7 years in, we really didn't, we chose it from a place of fear maybe, or because someone told us to do it, that I think you should be brave. And I think you should really tune into what do you want out of a career and really dream it up, and then trust that it will come to you. And this is a whole other exercise that I have with a lot of our clients and stuff like that, because I believe everyone deserves to go to their job and love it. You might not love every piece of it, but you should be excited to show up versus feeling dread Sunday night, knowing you're going to be there Monday through Friday, and then you only live on the weekends, or you're thinking about it in the evening times. It's the worst energy sucker ever. So like that's why I wanted to talk about it. I think we deserve that. So I just wanted to put it out there.
Two things come up for me, like the guy that created KFC, is it Colonel Sanders? Am I making that name up? Is it someone else?
I actually
Like,
don't
that's
know.
one-
I know that's like
I
an
know that
association.
the creator, whoever that is, the creator of KFC, I know he didn't start that business till he was after 50 years old, right? Morgan Freeman, one of the greatest actors, didn't start acting till he was 50 years old. There's examples all out there of people starting a second, third, fourth career later in their life. So there's that piece of it. I also follow another person I really enjoy. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk, marketing guy, advertising guy, just a really like intellectual person, has seen a lot of trends over the last 20 years and a bit ahead of it. And he talks about no matter what age you are, maybe you're in a job. So again, this is all about things that drain you. Awareness first. Yeah, this job I have drains me, but I need to pay my bills. I need to do these things. So again, for me versus Monica, I'm like, I'm not going to say quit your job right now, but if you recognize that and know that this is something that drains me, okay, outside of that 9 to 5, what am I doing to fill my cup up so I can be either totally at peace with that? And maybe that's just like playing an instrument. Maybe that's playing sports. Maybe that's doing things that light you up so we can find some balance in that. But then the other piece is if you really want to get out of it, talking about procrastination and stagnancy, 5:01 hits, you're done with that job. What are you doing for the next 3 to 4 hours to maybe move yourself in the right direction? And maybe he talks about having a side hustle of doing something different and learning about a new trade, learning about a new business, trying to do that. And then eventually, if that's the case, you can maybe do some things on the side that when that momentum and energy builds up where it can take over that, it makes it more at ease that you can like say, hey, maybe I don't want to do this anymore, moving in opposite direction, which is way easier than just saying, this job drains me, I'm quitting. And then you're like, oh shit.
Okay, I would. That's okay.
No, but I'm just saying like, that's just a way you can kind of think of it if this is a scenario that you're in as well.
But I love that perspective. And actually what I had written on the sheet behind there.
I really just talked about work right now.
Well, I said that I said do things that light you up. That's one of the best energy increasers, is like finding those things that we love to do. And I feel like as adults, we just don't do that anymore. Like we stop exploring, we stop doing the things that we love. I mean, even me playing soccer, it's been 16 years and I really didn't think I'd ever play again. Now playing it, I feel so lit up and I feel so abundantly filled with energy because I'm doing something that I love so much, and it just gives so much to me. So I feel like that is also a big piece of it. But back to the job thing, if I was in that situation 20 years in, I wouldn't just quit and be like, oh, I don't know. I would be prepared. I would be like dreaming up what do I really want? What do I want to feel? That's what I would do. And then I would be organized and I would be searching. Once I found something I wanted, then I would put my notice in. So I would actually be I'd be more prepared than what you were depicting.
That's not what you
guys
said.
You're both co-creators. Like, I think you're just trying to help people see that we create our lives.
We have literally had someone though start this process and then they quit their job the next day. And I didn't necessarily recommend that. She ended up working with us for a little while afterwards after that. Yeah.
I actually have a really good example of this now that we're just on this topic of jobs, but we have a client and he was in his job for a really long time and it's basically a startup. And his job, what he told me, is whenever things start hitting the fan, so to speak, he's the guy that has to handle the problem. And he gets so much anxiety when these things come to critical masses that before Rev, he was like, I feel like I'm gonna have a panic attack or a heart attack almost every day at work. Like, I hate my job. And I hate being that guy that has to be like this alarm system for everybody when stuff hits the fan. And he starts getting adjusted, and he realizes that actually that alarm system is constantly going off within him. He sees it at home with his kids. He sees it with his wife. And he was like, I think actually for some reason my awareness about these things is actually why they hired me for this job in the first place. And I'm like, wherever you go, there you are, right? But he just switched his mindset just the slightest bit of just like, I'm doing this out of anxiety to now from like a regulated state, a calm state. Like he's experienced that on the table for the past 6 months. He's like, now when these things hit the fan, I'm exactly the guy that needs to be in charge of this because I'm the only one not hitting the fan with it. Like, excuse me, when the numbers start scaling or escalating or whatever it is, I don't even really know what he does, but he was like, they actually hired him to come on as a partner for this job now because he's so good at what he does and he does it from a place of such groundedness. So I think about like sometimes like what is it in the job, and maybe it's actually cultivating you, shaping you, and making you grow, and that's actually a superpower too because sometimes the obstacle is the way and maybe it is your job.
And then another thing, the job thing is what we're talking about, but other things could be like, okay, for instance, we would have this party. Let me just talk about the Cuban Christmas. Okay, we would have this party every 23rd, so 2 days before Christmas, and it was so fun. It was awesome, but for me, I felt like the idea of doing it was draining and out of alignment with I wanted to experience Christmas, and it was kind of eating into that holiday. So that's another thing that it could be maybe something that you're doing. It's a tradition that maybe is no longer in alignment or whatever. Or it's like this networking event that you always go to, but you leave there feeling drained. So I'm just not saying just a job. It could be just something that is a routine that you're doing. I would say that drains you. And so, anyways,
Doing things that you feel like you're required to do never feels good, but doing things that you like really, really, truly, authentically enjoy, that's always going to fill your cup up.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfectly said. And the last one is misaligned community is our seventh energy sucker. This is probably one of the biggest because we're meant to live in community. We're meant to be loved by people, to live life with people, not just your family, but like your intimate group of friends and close people. But a misaligned community is, I would say, one of the biggest energy suckers for sure.
I heard this crazy thing that makes me really think about community in general. It was like the whole point of having a friendship or community is these people are almost like reflections of the experience, where in this human experience I get to maybe like we go on a trip, for example. I go on a trip by myself and I love the food, I love the music, I love the environment, the atmosphere, and I go by myself and it's a great time, but I go with you guys and all of a sudden those mirrors actually amplify my experience and actually highlight like your excitement of something that I might not even thought of. All of a sudden it's like, oh, and now it's like this huge pot where this they were saying whenever we have community that is like these anti-mirrors, they will start to suck that energy or they will start reflecting things into the field that are like completely out of alignment. Like I think if you ever go on a trip with like complainers or people like that, negative people, like everything is wrong for them, all of a sudden I can feel myself looking for what could be wrong. So I think we're cumulatively creating this experience in this field. And it's like, what kind of experience am I having? And also, what kind of experience would other people help me amplify? And if it's not, think how much out of alignment that is. Like just the smallest micro thing.
Yeah. Community is huge. I mean, you can go many different ways. Your community is big. Sometimes you have your small community that you want to hang out with all the time. You have the community that you're going to go on vacations with, and you have people in the community you're not going to go on vacations with. I have a favorite movie that I watch every single Christmas time. It's called It's a Wonderful Life, and every single year I cry at the end because for me it hits home because in this movie he has many people over the course of many years of his life that this guy has positively impacted. And for him, his perspective, he was feeling low and he was feeling down. He's like, I haven't fulfilled the things that I wanted in my life. And then when tough times hit, which most of you guys have seen this movie, at the end, what happens? All of the people that he ever impacted, they loved him so much that they helped him to get out of a bind. I love that so much is because we're meant to be here on earth for a reason. Like every single person has a reason that they're here. Whether you're doing the work that we do, you're an analyst, you're a tech guy, you're an engineer, you're a janitor, you are serving a purpose in the world. And the people that we come across is an opportunity to connect, to love, to share, to make our life a little bit more fun and dynamic. And I just feel like there's always people that we can learn from. And all that to be said, don't necessarily try to get rid of every single person in your life. The first step for sure, if someone is negative, if someone is misaligned in your community, I have to think that they went into your life for a reason, right? Every person we talk about, there's either a season, a reason, or a lifetime that person's in there. So don't necessarily just say, hey, you suck, I'm going to get rid of you. Like, invite don't procrastinate and have that conversation that you maybe need to have with that person, because for some reason that person's come into your life. So community to me is everything. And I do think that discerning who you want to be around more, whether that's like to feel good and feel energized and feel maybe if you want to lose weight, being around people that are healthier, maybe if you want to advance your career, maybe hanging around more people. So you can actually use it as a awareness and a tool. Like, what are you wanting out of your life? Let me find more people that I want to be around. And the cool thing is, when you start changing the people you hang around, some of those older people that maybe didn't act that way, one, they'll either naturally get out of your life and it'll be all good. You can still be part of your community, but maybe they start joining you as well for your goals, whether that's health, whether that's wellness, or whatever it may be.
I think community has, and we've done many videos. We did a whole video on just community before, so you guys can dive deeper into that. But I feel like for me at this point, community and friends in particular, family is different because can't escape family. So that's a whole other conversation, but they can also be your friends too. You know what I mean? If things are healed and worked through. But friends to me have been some of the greatest teachers in my life. And the more friends that I gain, it's like tasting the different flavors of ice cream at Baskin Robbins. Whereas if I'm only eating vanilla, then I would never even know what birthday cake tastes like or what Neapolitan tastes like or whatever. But for me, it's like I've been tasting the different types where I'm like, oh, actually, I don't really like vanilla anymore. Like that actually doesn't feel good when I thought that's the only option that there was for me. So that's actually what this has been. And the flavors are really just the different types of personalities, the different visions they have for their life, the different ways of being. And I think you have to taste the different flavors of people to know what feels the best for you at any given season and to honor that. And I kind of broadly said it, but that's really what it's been for me. And the more I can be around people that I feel aligned with and I feel loved and supported by, and I feel like we can use our energy together, like she's saying, I leave there feeling inspired, excited, uplifted, versus I've had so many experiences in my life with people, and I'm the problem. I'm not saying they're the problem, that I leave there feeling drained or like it doesn't feel right and I don't feel excited to see them again. And so a lot of the thing has been healing on my end of how I can show up more authentically, but also maybe that person is not at the right season to be in my life. So that's also a huge piece that it's been a puzzle that we all have to solve. Yeah.
I could get into so much on this.
I
I feel
know
like,
it's a big
yeah,
one.
yeah, because I agree with both you guys, and I think about it like me in the center of my community. I know my values, I know my intentions, I know me, and that's the first part of like understanding who I am. And then I feel like I do have this like second tier of like how you're kind of saying like there's like this family. I mean friends too, but like family kind of in this next tier, and then the next tier would be like friends and community and like keep going out. And sometimes I feel like for me, like I've been really focused on a person that's on like the 20th tier of my circle. Like that person for some reason rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know what it was. I can't get them out of my mind and they're causing this turbulence, or every time I'm with them I feel drained or negative. And I'm like, I'm giving this person way too much energy. Like they're on my 20th tier of my circle, and at tier one in the center, I'm good. We're good at 2, 3, 4. And I'm like, if I'm good at like 7, it's not a problem for me. But when those people start coming in, it's actually like how you said, Matt, like everybody's meant for us. And I made this joke a long time ago, like not many people really throw me off my scent and I'm like focused like that. But when they do, I'm like, this is like God in drag or something. They're driving me crazy, annoying me, negative, whatever it might be. But for some reason, everything about me that was negative, annoying, whatever it might be, starts changing in their presence. And I'm like, those people are meant for us too. But I think if they're living too closely in the center tier of our circle, that's the problem. It's not that we see them every once in a while and they may drive us crazy. It's like, thank you for the awareness, and I'm going to leave you at circle 20.
You said it. You're giving them too much energy.
Yeah.
You're giving away that energy instead of seeing it for what it is. It's just someone on the outside and like, hey, it's here for a reason. Let's love them up. But we don't need to give you any more attention or energy than we need to.
And you probably see them, what, every 6 months? And in your head, they may live every 6 days.
But I was also talking to someone
months.
today, and she just got a session, and she's like, I feel so stuck right now. And I'm like, why do you feel stuck? And she's like, I just feel like there's some relationships in my life where I'm giving too much and they're not giving. It's not reciprocal. The law of reciprocity, it's not there. And so I'm like, well, that's great awareness. So I think even that piece, that she was feeling stuck and drained because there wasn't synergy between how many relationships she was saying. I think there was at least 2 of them, that these need to be reevaluated. Maybe a conversation, maybe, who knows, but it's just awareness. Again, this is all awareness of what's taking our energy versus we're not telling you to make a decision or what to do about it. That's going to be your unique journey, but that's a big piece. Just be aware of who you're around, because we're the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. So that's really big.
Love it. Awesome.
And I think the sum of it, to close it out, is I was really thinking about all these things of just the energy thing, because again, that's been on my radar for a really long time. There's always hope for more energy. So if you feel that you had no energy, or you're kind of feeling depleted or disempowered about it, like there's no hope that you're going to get more, that's the farthest thing from the truth. Yes, like you can definitely have more energy. And I'm so excited for that to be a reality. It's coming. But I think the end of it is that I think vitality comes directly from adaptability and integration, because we want to have a bigger bandwidth. Like she spoke a lot about bandwidth. Bandwidth is our ability to handle stress that comes. Stress is never not going to come our way. It's there to shape us, it's there to extend our comfort zones, all these things. And so the more adaptable we can be to our life, the less energy suckers there will be, because we're going to be in flow with it. We're going to be moving with it. And the more we can integrate our past experiences, that's directly related to our bigger bandwidth. So like there's those, all 3 are related. So that's the biggest thing, is that adaptability, integration leads, the byproduct is vitality, which is that abundant energy that we all want to feel, that flow, that glow, all of those things involved in it. So that's everyone's reality. And it's just an invitation to start doing these 7, no, actually stop doing these 7 energy suckers.
Thinking about these 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we would love to hear from you guys. We really hope this was of service and to help you. And we believe that it's going to impact your levels of vitality tremendously. So please share this with someone who's also struggling with having low energy. Please comment below. We'd love to hear from you, and we will see you next time.